Watch my back. Watch my back.
I'm down.
Watch my back.
I'm down.
Stop! Stop your shit! Oh! Hey! Get him! Diesel!
Okay. You guys, that guy was trying to hit me. You
Get him,
guys
Diesel!
didn't let me go.
Morning. So, I'm a cop. And that's what I do on a daily basis. Luckily, I don't do it every day. But, you know, this is the kind of stuff that law enforcement deals with on a fairly often, fairly regular basis. Dealing with somebody who's got some sort of mental disability or is in some sort of crisis. So you might ask yourself, why is a cop up here at this particular conference? I mean, what do cops know about medicine anyway? We're a bunch of flatfoots. I mean, we see blood and we call for ambulance drivers and we ask them how quickly they can get there. The reality is we're dealing with this sort of stuff more and more on a constant basis. So I got involved in a Project ECHO kind of by accident. I was here at the University of New Mexico, and the Albuquerque TEDx was in town. And my wife got us tickets, and we went, and I sat there, and Dr. Aurora stepped on stage and explained the concept about Project ECHO. I have a medical background. I'm a paramedic as well. And I was intrigued. My wife, however, is a nurse administrator. She was fascinated. For the next couple weeks, that's all we spoke about was Project ECHO. It was at the dinner table, it was in the car. And soon she was on her way to several Project ECHOs. Well, not to be outdone, I decided I was going to jump on that bandwagon too. So Project ECHO CIT was born. Project ECHO CIT is a collaboration between the University of New Mexico and the Albuquerque Police Department. Now, we got together about a year and a half ago, and we're literally spreading across the cop world faster than a speeding bullet. This thing is amazing. So what is CIT? CIT is Crisis Intervention Teams. This is a concept that's been introduced to law enforcement in recent years, teaching cops how to deal with people in psychological mental health crisis. It's actually working out pretty well. Let me tell you a story. March 3rd of this year, about 7:16 in the morning, my dispatch center receives a call. There's a gentleman who's on the phone who says he's been talking to one of his employees via cell phone, via text message, messenger, that sort of thing. Gentleman's name is Tony. Tony has been sending these messages back and forth to his boss, and his boss is now worried that it's not making very much sense, and he's worried about Tony, worried enough that he prompts the employer to call 911 in our area and have somebody go check on Tony. What we don't know about this part of the story, or as this is going along, is that Tony has recently separated from his wife, and he's contemplating suicide. He's a truck driver. He lives in Colorado, and he's transporting cargo from Colorado to Texas. And he stops in our community overnight to catch some rest. Well, my boss, Sheriff James Daniel Lujan, happens to be in the area when the call comes in. And so he goes to check. And after a few minutes, he finds somebody walking along the median along State Road 68, one of the major hubs into our community. And he approaches the gentleman. This is, in fact, Tony. As Tony sees Sheriff Lujan drive up, Tony makes a gesture. He tells Sheriff Lujan, "I'm going to point my gun at you, and you being a cop, you are going to kill me." What he's asking is for suicide by cop. Sheriff Lujan needs to buy some time. So, he comes up with a little white lie. "I'm the sheriff." Well, that part's true. "I sit behind a desk all day." Well, that's kind of a half-truth, because the reality is if he sat behind a desk, he wouldn't be out there with Tony, right? I don't even carry a gun. Tony hesitates. He looks at the sheriff and says, I don't see a gun. This buys the sheriff a few moments, and they start this rapport, talking back and forth. Meanwhile, law enforcement officers from different agencies are all convening on the area, and we're blocking off every access to where Tony is standing. It's 7:30 in the morning. This is our version of rush hour. Traffic is not happy with us. This rapport builds between Tony and the sheriff. Sheriff Lujan offers Tony a bottle of water. Tony asks for a cigarette. One of our deputies rushes to a gas station, and in a few minutes, a single cigarette is offered to Tony. Sheriff Lujan takes the cigarette, walks over to a flat rock in the median, and places the cigarette on the ground, and then steps away. We get another break. Tony reaches into his pocket, and his lighter doesn't work. So Sheriff Lujan reaches into his pocket and offers his lighter. Same thing. He puts it on the flat rock, and he steps away. Now they're building a rapport. This is now something that is going back and forth, and Tony trusts the sheriff. Okay? This goes on back and forth, back and forth. Another cigarette, a bottled water, even a cell phone. A cell phone is produced. Tony picks up the cell phone. He calls his father. Unfortunately, what we hear is this. I love you, Dad. Don't worry. This is going to be over real soon. There's a little piece of body camera video that I've got here. We'll show that, and this kind of illustrates what was going on this day. For over 2 hours, this goes back and forth. It's now about 9:20 in the morning. And Sheriff Lujan gets a break. Tony's offered another bottle of water. He takes the bottle of water, he places it on the rock, and the same thing, he steps away. But this time he doesn't step as far away as he has before. Well, the reason is that bottled water is sealed. And Tony takes his gun and he puts it in his pocket so that he can open the bottled water. Sheriff Lujan is close enough at this moment to rush towards Tony as fast as he can run. He has a taser in his pocket. He fires the taser at Tony, hits Tony. Unfortunately, it's a little chilly out there this morning, and Tony's wearing a big jacket. The taser probes don't hit their mark. But it's enough to let Sheriff Lujan close that gap. And with the force of a UNM linebacker, go Lobos, Tony and Sheriff Lujan go to the ground. The gun is already in Tony's hand. When Sheriff Lujan hits Tony, the gun falls to the ground. They wrestle for what seems like an hour, I'm sure, while other officers come into the area and subdue Tony. Tony, Sheriff Lujan, and no other officers were harmed this day. No shots were fired. Nobody lost their life. So what happens to Tony? Well, we made the determination that Tony is, in fact, not thinking rationally, and he's transported to a local hospital for a mental health evaluation. No crimes have been charged against Tony. As a matter of fact, Tony is alive and well and back home today. Well, when I look at this and I tell this story, I think to myself, is Sheriff Lujan a hero? Well, I think so, but he's my boss, okay? And I might be a little bit tainted in my opinion. There's also a video camera in here that's recording this, and I guarantee by noon today he's going to watch this. So yeah, he's a hero. Now, the reality is this. Sheriff Lujan is a 30-year law enforcement veteran. He's been a cop his entire adult life, and a Marine before that. He drew upon all of his experiences, everything that he had in his toolbox that day. The observations, how he interacted, all these things. Project ECHO CIT is a catalyst to help rookie officers along the way, new officers, veteran officers who don't have these experiences, learn from these experiences. What we do is we get on, we do our weekly meetings, we have these didactic kind of classroom settings, and then we share a story. and we share that information that we learned, good or bad, across the World Wide Web in real time. What we're doing is we're sharing this information because what you saw here this morning in both those videos may be something that somebody in, say, Vaughan, New Mexico has never seen. Our Project ECHO has gone from UNM, Albuquerque Police Department, to across the state of New Mexico, to include little old Rio Arriba County, where I come from. Our last session, we had somebody from Baltimore, Maryland, somebody from Seattle, Washington, and an officer from Canada. So, why am I here? A cop. What we're doing at Project ECHO CIT is we are merging modern law enforcement and modern medicine and bringing it together to save lives. Thank you.